Yes, I was telling everybody the latest news today, so I won't repeat it for all of you. You can read the paper if you want. And not just repeating the news for to gossip, but, because sometimes when we look at what's going on in the world, and then we look at our ability to practice the Dharma, we really appreciate it. Yeah. And we see that all these people have so many problems that we're actually free from having because we aren't involved with, impure morality and, getting indicted and prosecuted and so on. So. Okay, so we're talking about Buddha nature again today. We're almost done with this book. Yeah. So, and then we'll go on to volume 4, following in the footsteps of the Buddha. Is that the title? Following in the Buddha's footsteps. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the names of the books I write. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin with visualizing the merit field. And having a happy mind at having reliable refuges in our lives. And how nice it is to be able to turn to them for guidance and teachings. And to learn how to live a good life, how to live a worthwhile life. So the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha teach us that. And then we're surrounded by all the sentient beings who want happiness, but due to ignorance, especially ignorance about the law of karma and its effects, especially due to that, all these beings in their search for happiness wind up creating a lot of negativity. And when they act in self-centered ways, harming others, and when we harm others, we are harming ourselves through the creation of destructive karma. And so seeing that this is the situation of the world, and not just that it's the situation of the world, but that people aren't even aware of how crowded or clouded, how obscured their minds are. And we're in that bunch too, because when afflictions arise in our mind, we think that they're telling us what's right, what's the way to happiness, so we follow our afflictions. And at that moment, we're just not even aware of the creation of negative karma. We're not aware, we don't care if we're doing it. So seeing that this is kind of the state of most living beings on this planet, it's a very sad situation. And it's sad too that we waste our own lives in afflictions without realizing what we're doing. So we'll take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. Then we'll have a few minutes of silence. I just set the motivation. Usually I do it after the meditation, but now in the meditation, think about the motivation that I set. And then after that, we'll start the talk. So in the material we covered last week, there's a lot to think about. And there's a lot, you have to go back and read it and study it and really think about what is being said, because, when you heard the teachings, you heard that some words had very different meanings in different contexts. And so you have to understand, what the context is, what a word means, and how that all relates to the whole topic of Buddha nature. And also how, when we're talking about Buddha nature, we're talking, it's important to have the background of the two truths, ultimate and conventional truths, because sometimes we talk about the Buddha nature being the ultimate truth of the mind, the empty nature of the mind. Sometimes we talk about it being the clear light nature of the mind, which is the conventional nature. Yeah, so we have to, there's a lot to keep in mind to kind of set the stage, and it requires some work on your part. If you just come and then maybe take some notes, but then go away and don't look at anything, then you come back the next week and it's like, we're talking about Buddha nature. And that's all you remember. But if somebody says, well, what is Buddha nature? You're not sure what to say. Okay, so I just wanted to review a little bit from what we were talking about in the last section, where His Holiness was clearing up some of the possible misinterpretations people could have from the language that is often used to talk about Buddha nature. Okay? So he was talking about first this quote. He didn't say where it was from. Within afflictions, wisdom abides. Yeah. So, if we take that literally, it sounds like afflictions have the nature of wisdom. And that, but then that seems pretty contradictory, because afflictions are based on ignorance, which is grasps the total opposite of how wisdom apprehends things. So it gets a little bit confusing. So what is meant by wisdom in that situation? Normally wisdom, well, again, there's many different ways. We can talk about an Arya's wisdom. We could talk about the wisdom of the conventional nature, the wisdom of the ultimate nature. There's many different ways to talk about wisdom. Okay, here in this case, within afflictions, wisdom abides. Wisdom is referring to the clear light nature of the mind that can transform into the resultant state. Okay, so the clear and cognizant nature of the mind that its continuity can go to awakening. Okay, now what does it mean then? Within afflictions, wisdom arises. Well, afflictions, the afflictions that form a distorted or a polluted mental state, the afflictions are mental factors, and there's a primary mind, a primary mental consciousness, and the nature of the primary mental consciousness and even of the afflictions, well, not really the afflictions. Let's stick with the primary mental consciousness. That mind is just clear and cognizant. So the afflictions color it and make it something harmful, make it a destructive mental state. But just the clear and cognizant nature of an afflicted mind, if you take out the afflicted part, that clear and cognizant nature can go on to full awakening. Okay, so the mind of anger, or the mental state of anger, that is not Buddha nature. It cannot go to awaken. The afflicted mental states have to be eliminated. But the clear and cognizant aspect of an afflicted mental state, just that aspect of it, that can go on to Buddhahood. Okay? So the when Nagarjuna talks about like that, I don't know if he said that quote or about that idea that within afflictions wisdom abides. Nagarjuna and the Sutra viewpoint are talking, their wisdom is the continuity of the mental consciousness. Okay? So, the continuity of the mental consciousness in most situations would not be called wisdom. But here it's called wisdom because its continuity is the basis for attaining awakening. Without that clear and cognizant nature of the mental consciousness, awakening can't be attained. Okay, so that's the usage according to the Sutra perspective. According to the Dzogchen and Mahamudra perspective, and because they're looking at it from the viewpoint of highest Yoga Tantra, okay, wisdom is referring to the innate clear light mind. Okay, now what's the difference between the innate clear light mind that's being referred to in the tantric sense and the clear and cognizant nature of the mind that is being referred to in the sutra sense? Okay, just saying the clear and cognizant nature of the mind, that could be a subtle mind, a coarse mind, it could be any kind of level of mind. But when we talk about the innate clear light mind, which is the perspective that Dzogchen and Mahamudra are talking about, then we're talking about that subtlest level of consciousness that arises at the time of death, or that arises when yogis are meditating and able to dissolve all the winds in the central channel so that all the coarse levels of mind also dissolve, and then leaving just that extremely subtle innate clear light mind. Okay, so that innate clear light mind, sometimes in the perspective of Dzogchen and Mahamudra, they will call it non-composite. Okay, now non-composite, it's another tricky word, because usually something that is non-composite is permanent. Composite phenomena that are made of different parts that come about due to causes and conditions are impermanent. So here we're talking about the extremely subtle mind. You know, are Dzogchen and Mahamudra saying that mind is permanent? You know, from everything we've learned before, no, you know, the mind is never and can never be permanent. So what non-composite means in that situation when Dzogchen and Mahamudra and you know, the wisdom of bliss and emptiness is being discussed. Okay, we're talking about that extremely subtle clear light mind. Okay, why is it called non-composite? And what does non-composite mean here? Here, in this situation, non-composite does not mean permanent. It means it's referring to that mind, and it means that that clear light mind has existed beginninglessly, and it will continue into the future endlessly. Okay, so usually when we say permanent, you know, we mean it's not changing at all. Here, permanent is referring to the fact that it's existed beginninglessly and will exist endlessly. It's not referring to the mind not changing moment, because the mind does change moment by moment. If it couldn't, we could never attain Buddhahood. Yeah, because the mind would be permanent. Yeah. So the clear light mind has existed beginninglessly and it will exist eternally. So here, permanent means eternal. Okay. So this, from the viewpoint, again, of Dzogchen and Mahamudra, the Buddha nature is that innate, ever-present clear light mind. Yeah. That's the viewpoint, what they're talking about, what the Buddha nature is. From the, when the seventh Dalai Lama is talking, he's talking from the sutra viewpoint. And there they don't talk about different levels of minds and, so on. Okay. Okay, is that clear to people? Yeah. Okay, then Longchenpa, who is a very well-known Nyingma master, said that what is, I don't know if he said it or again, if this is in a text by some, or Tantra. But anyway, the quotation is, what is primordially awakened becomes reawakened. Okay, so if you're thinking of the Buddha nature is primordially awakened. Primordially means beginninglessly. Yeah, whenever you see, usually primordially means from the beginning, but in Buddhism it means beginningless because there's no beginning. Okay, so, So what is primordially awakened becomes reawakened. So it's referring to the natural nirvana. Do you remember what natural nirvana is? There's 4 different kinds of nirvana. Do you remember what the 4 are? Okay, what's natural nirvana? Okay, it's the emptiness of the mind, specifically sentient beings' minds. Okay, so, so that emptiness is permanent. Yeah. And because there's that natural nirvana of the mind, then it's possible to attain awakening. Because if the mind were inherently existent, okay, something that is inherently existent does not change. Because it does not rely on any other phenomena, and it is not affected by any other phenomena. So if the mind, were permanent, then there's no way we could attain awakening. So the natural nirvana of the mind, is the emptiness, empty nature of sentient being's mind. And on that basis, nirvana can be attained. Okay, so because the mind is empty, nirvana can be attained. So when it says what is primordially awakened becomes reawakened, okay? So what is primordially awakened is referring to the natural nirvana of the mind, and becomes reawakened would mean that it becomes the nature truth body of the Buddha. Okay, so we have two things. Because the mind, the ultimate nature of the mind is empty, we can attain Buddhahood, because that ultimate nature of the mind can become the nature truth body of the Buddha. And then because the clear light nature, the fundamental innate, the clear light nature of the mind in general, and especially because we have the fundamental innate mind of clear light, that's another basis for becoming a Buddha, because that mind can become the Buddha's omniscient mind. Okay, so what we're seeing here is based on the fundamental innate mind of clear light, its conventional nature and its ultimate nature both provide the bases for attaining awakening, because both of them can become the Dharmakaya of the Buddha, one becoming the nature Dharmakaya, one becoming the wisdom Dharmakaya. Okay, so that's to review a little bit. You see what I mean when I said you have to go back and think about it? Okay, so we'll start on page 332 at the top, Causal Clear Light Mind. Sure.
Been puzzling about this all week, but we talk a lot about how the emptiness of the Buddha's omniscient mind, how important that is, but we never talk
the emptiness.
How important, I mean, the two natures of that Buddha's mind are essential. But I never heard anybody talk about the emptiness of the form bodies. Is that just
the form body? When we talk about a Sambhogakaya, actually, a Sambhogakaya is a person, okay? It's a person who, it's a manifestation of the Buddha in a pure land that guides sentient beings, and that, when you are awakened, you have the subtlest clear light mind, and together with it, the subtlest wind, which are one nature. And the subtlest wind becomes manifest as the body of the form body, and the subtlest mind becomes the mind of that emanation of the Buddha. Okay? So when it says body, when we talk about the four bodies of the Buddha, it doesn't mean physical body. Body means like when we say a body of people, it means a group of people, a collection. Okay, so the causal clear light mind. The causal clear light mind can be spoken of from the perspective of both Sutra and Tantra. Sutra speaks of the continuity of the mental consciousness, which is present at all times. The jhana is the Sanskrit word that can be translated as wisdom. It can be translated as consciousness, I think. I'm sorry. It's a different spelling. That's consciousness. This one's wisdom. So the jhana that abides in the afflictions refers to the continuum of this mental consciousness. Okay? So the clear and cognizant continuity of the mental consciousness. While the continuum of the mental consciousness is not actual pristine wisdom, it will become this wisdom as we progress through the paths and grounds to Buddhahood. So those of you who were here when we studied the paths and grounds, then you remember, there's a whole map about what you meditate and what you abandon at each thing, it's all laid out. Okay, highest Yoga Tantra differentiates two types of mind. The temporary adventitious consciousness, those are the coarse levels of mind, and the innate, ever-present clear light mind. When all the coarser levels of mind, including the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment, those are subtler states of mind that manifest during the death process as the coarse mind and coarse body are losing their ability and dissolving. Okay. So when the coarser levels of mind, including the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment, have dissolved, the subtlest innate clear light mind becomes manifest. Only this mind remains. Okay. The fact that all the other minds have dissolved indicates that they are adventitious. In other words, they are not the nature of the mind that is always there. They come and they go. Yeah, they're temporary, they're adventitious. While the subtlest innate clear light mind, which has existed since beginningless time and continues on endlessly to awakening, that mind persists, whereas the coarser minds don't. Okay, is that, yeah? So from the perspective of highest Yoga Tantra, the clear and cognizant nature of the mind that is the fundamental innate clear light mind, that underlies all consciousnesses. But we should not equate clarity and cognizance in general with the fundamental innate clear light mind, because all consciousnesses are clear and cognizant. Okay? So if it's clear and cognizant, let's do, what are the 4 points between clear and cognizant mind and fundamental innate mind of clear light? What are the 4 things? What is both of them? Mm-hmm. It would be the clarity and cognizance of the fundamental innate clear light mind. Okay. What is the two we were doing? What is clear and cognizant, but is not the fundamental innate mind of clear light? Give an example. Yeah, your ear consciousness, or your coarse mental consciousness, or your greedy mind. Yeah, okay. What is not clear and cognizant, but is the fundamental innate mind nature, fundamental innate clear light mind? There's nothing. Okay. And what is neither clear nor cognizant, nor the fundamental innate mind of clear light?
Your sense power.
Yeah, your sense power. Okay. So it's good to, when you are studying, to do this thing, and it really helps you think about what something is. Okay. So we should not equate clarity and cognizance in general with the fundamental innate mind of clear light. All consciousnesses are clear and cognizant because that is the definition of consciousness. The fundamental innate clear light mind is the subtlest mind. The coarser minds of the waking state are derivatives of this everlasting mind. Although they have a clear and cognizant nature, they are not the subtlest innate mind. Okay, so like the white, red, and black stages. Neither the continuum of the mental consciousness spoken of in Sutra, nor the fundamental innate clear light mind spoken of in Tantra is a soul or inherently existent self. Both are empty of inherent existence. And that's a very important point, because it's so easy when you talk about something that is, beginningless and endless, to think of it as a soul. Yeah. And then as soon as you think soul, it becomes something permanent that doesn't change. And then you're down the slippery slope to becoming a non-Buddhist. Okay? Okay, so then the next section is what continues to awakening. Okay, does your body go on to awakening? Okay, does your pride in being better than other people go on to awakening? Yeah. Does your reputation go on to awakening? Does the fact that some people like you and some people don't like you, does that go on to awakening? Oh, I see. You want us all to cheer when you become a Buddha.
No, it's based on other people's thoughts. It doesn't have to do with the mind.
Okay. So who is the person that goes from being an ordinary being to an Arya to a Buddha? To answer this, we speak of the general I and then also the specific I. So we've talked about this before, if you remember. How many people remember the discussion? Yeah. Oh, so you all know if I ask you what the general I is, you can tell me? Okay, what's the general I? Venerable Rinchen, what's the general I?
The general I is labeled in dependence on the continuum of the mental consciousness going from life to life.
Kind of, but it's more designated independence on all the specific I's. Okay, are you a specific I? Is Venerable Rinchen a specific I or a general I? Or both?
A specific I, or an instance of a specific I.
Yeah, it's a specific I. Yeah, what do you think? Do the rest of you agree? She's a specific I. Are you a specific I? Are you a general I? If I say, are you a specific I? Are you a general I? You can say, yes, I'm both. If I say, are you a specific I? Yes. Are you a general I? Well, if you refers to this body, these aggregates, then no, these aggregates are not the basis of designation of the general I. Okay. Okay. So to answer who's the person that goes from being an ordinary being to an Arya to a Buddha, We speak of the general I, the continuity of the merely designated I from one life to the next. Okay, so it's the continuity of the merely designated I, not of the mind. Yeah. And the specific I of each lifetime that constitutes that continuity. The specific I of each lifetime is designated in dependence on the aggregates of that life. Since our physical and mental aggregates change from one lifetime to the next, the I designated in dependence on them also changes. So we do not have the same specific I in one life and in the next life. Okay. In one lifetime, we may be Susan, in the next John, in the next a cockroach, in the next a god. Okay. So the specific I's can be very, very different. Okay. So these are the specific I's of those three life. Oh, I skipped a sentence. In one lifetime, we may be a monkey, in another a human being, and in yet another a deva. These are the specific I's of those three lifetimes. Okay, so does Geshe-la exist? Yeah.
Not as a specific I.
Yeah, not as a specific I.
But the general
Is Geshe-la the general I?
No.
No, Geshe-la is a specific I. Does that specific I exist now? No. Does the general I exist? Yes. So Geshe-la was one blip in that whole long continuity of all the specific I's that constitute that general I. So that's one lifetime in that whole beginningless, endless continuity. Yeah? And what we are in this lifetime is similarly one little blip in that whole long continuity. Yeah. If we had clairvoyance, we could see in the past and see what we were. Yeah. And we were, that when we say we were, it's referring to the general I. Yeah. Also, those different people, or we were designated in dependence on all those people. Okay. And also, when I say the word people, it doesn't mean just human beings. Okay, a person can be a cat, is a cockroach, a spider. All these are also people, persons. Yeah.
Can I just easily understand it as the specific I is a person and the general I is a label on that continuity?
Both the specific and the general I are persons, and both of them are designated. Okay? The specific I is designated on the 5 aggregates of a specific lifetime. The general I is designated on all those different specific I's. That continuity of specific I's.
How does that make it a person?
Well, a person, the definition of a person is what is merely designated in dependence on 4 or 5 aggregates.
But the continuity is not 4 and 5.
Yeah, but it's the individual moments, the individual specific I's. They're designated in dependence on the 4 or 5 aggregates of a particular lifetime. And the general I, is you see all these different lifetimes, and then the general I is designated in dependence on that. Let's go on. It may be easier to understand. Okay, so the general I, or person, that goes from one life to the next is designated independence on the series of specific eyes. Okay? The Buddha spoke of the general eye when he said, "In my previous life, I was a king. In the present life, I am Shakyamuni Buddha." So, you hear him say that. So when he says, "In the previous life, I was a king," what eye was the king? Okay? Because he's saying, I was the king. So, he's talking about a previous specific eye that, like the present eye of Shakyamuni Buddha, are the eyes, the specific eyes upon which the general eye is designated, or independence on the general eye is designated independence on that continuity of specific eyes. Okay, or on the whole of specific eyes. So the person or I that exists continuously in the past, present, and future without interruption is the general I. That general I encompasses the monkey of one life, the human in the next, and the deva in the life after that. The monkey, human being, and deva are the specific persons of those individual lives. They are born and die. The general I goes from samsara to full awakening. Okay? So the specific eyes cease, but the continuity of the general I, of which each specific I is a member, that goes on without uninterruptedly, and it can't be ceased. Okay? So when speaking of the self that exists in the three times, in the past, present, and future, we are not referring to a subtle self or a coarse self. No distinction like that is made. It is simply the general I. Likewise, without making any distinction in terms of subtle or coarse, we say there is a general mental consciousness that exists in the past, present, and future. Okay, so we can say the general mental consciousness goes on to awakening. Okay, but, we'll get into it. Keep listening. Although the general mental consciousness goes from one life to the next and on to awakening, the specific mental consciousnesses of the sentient beings in that continuum do not. Okay? Because the specific persons do not go on to awakening. They cease at the time of death. And they are designated in dependence upon the five aggregates of that life. When we die, we're abandoning the five aggregates of that life. The continuity of the mental consciousness goes on. The continuity of the coarse body doesn't. The worms have lunch. Okay, or it gets burned and it pollutes the air. But, okay, so the specific mental consciousnesses of the sentient beings in each that are of the specific eyes that are in that continuity of general I, those specific mental consciousnesses don't go on to awakening. Okay, because when you're a monkey, you have the mental consciousness of a monkey. When you're a human being, you have the mental consciousness of a human being. Okay, those are different, mental consciousnesses. They think differently. They operate differently. Yeah?
It almost sounds like this subtle, fundamental, innate
clear light mind is separate from our aggregates.
No, don't bring that in. Here we're not talking about subtler course. Okay? The subtlest clear light mind is part of the aggregates. If it weren't, then it would be an independent soul. The subtlest clear light mind, is a consciousness that underlies all of the course consciousnesses.
So all of this about the general and specific I is within the sutra context.
Yeah, and it applies for Tantra also. It's not contradictory in Tantra.
No, but when you say we leave all the aggregates behind,
We do.
But what about what happens to the subtle mind?
The subtle, when that,
Leave it behind, we're in trouble.
well, just as we have the general I, independence on each moment of the fundamental clear light mind, we designate fundamental clear light mind. That goes on. Okay, but the mental consciousness of each lifetime doesn't. Okay, the consciousness aggregate of the monkey. Yeah, consciousness aggregate of the monkey. So we're talking here just in general, not specifically sutra or tantra, okay? The consciousness aggregate of the monkey is not the substantial cause of the consciousness aggregate of the human being in the next rebirth. Now it seems like, well, maybe it should be. Why isn't it? Because you have the last moment of the monkey mind, and the next moment in the bardo is considered the first moment of the human being. So isn't the monkey mind the substantial cause, the last moment of the monkey mind, the substantial cause of the first moment of the human mind?
Yes.
Some people are saying no, and some people are saying yes. Why are you saying no?
Be inherently existent.
Would have to be inherently existent, I think, for it to go. It's not inherently existent.
Well, if it were inherently existent, then the human being would have a monkey mind.
I'm sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah. I didn't
Okay.
say it right, but that's what I meant.
Yeah, we do have a monkey mind, but not the consciousness aggregate of a monkey. Okay. Now, some people over on the side said, that the substantial cause of the first moment of the human being is the last moment of the monkey mind, the monkey's mind. Why did you say that? No, it's not in the book. Okay, listen, the consciousness aggregate of the monkey is not the substantial cause of the consciousness aggregate of the human being in the next rebirth. See, it says the opposite of what you said. Okay, however, the last moment of the consciousness of one life is the substantial cause for the first moment of the consciousness of the next life. Yes, when we're talking about consciousness in general, meaning clear and cognizant, but the last moment of the monkey's mind is not the substantial cause of the first moment of the human mind, because a monkey mind cannot become a human mind. Is the last moment of a monkey's body, here we're shifting to a different thing, is the last moment of a monkey's body the substantial cause of the first moment of the human body of the next life? No. They're different bodies, and similarly, they're different mental consciousnesses. Okay, the mental consciousnesses of all these lives are clear and cognizant. Yeah, but just ask Upeka if he thinks like a human being, and if he can discern things in the same way as a human being does. Yeah. Food, he would say yes. Or at least cat food, he would say yes. Chocolate, he wouldn't discern that as food at all.
So is it more that the consciousness aggregate of the monkey is not the substantial cause of the consciousness aggregate of the human, but the clarity and consciousness of the last moment of mind of the monkey is the substantial cause of the clarity and cognizance of the first moment of mind of the human?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. In this way, it is said that the continuity of the mental consciousness goes on to awakening. Okay, if we're just talking about clarity and awareness, that goes on. Last moment is a substantial cause for the next moment. Here, we're not talking Tantra and subtlest mind in here. Okay. However, this mental consciousness is not a truly existent self or soul. So just because it continues on to awakening doesn't mean it's inherently existent. Okay. But we think, oh, it goes on to awakening. It's the essence of me. Yeah, it's what's really me underneath it all. It's the real me. Sorry, it's not. It's our mind that makes that up because we want to grasp, We see something, and instead of seeing it as something that arises dependently, we see it as self-instituting. It's there. There's something real that goes from the last moment of the monkey mind to the first moment of the human mind, and that real thing is really me. Now, is there anything that goes unchanged from the monkey mind to the human mind? No. So the last moment of the monkey mind becomes the past. The first moment of the human mind is the present. Then the next moment after that of the human mind, it keeps continuing like that. So we have to pay attention to how things are worded. Yeah, and what they actually are referring to here. As discussed above, because afflictions such as ignorance are eradicated on the path and do not go on to awakening, they cannot be considered Buddha nature. Although afflictions do not continue on to awakening, the clear and cognizant characteristic of the afflictions does. Here it is helpful to understand two kinds of continuity. So one is called the continuity of type, in which the cause and the result share similar characteristics. For example, this table yesterday and this table today are in the continuity of a similar type, because they're both this table, just different moments of it. Okay. The second kind of continuity is a continuity of substance, in which one thing is the substance that transforms into another thing. Okay. So if we burn the table and we have a bunch of, ashes, the ashes are the continuity of substance from the table, because it's what happened. It's the continuity of the wood. Okay. But the ashes are not the continuity of type of the table, because ashes and table are two different things. Okay? So, for example, a log burns and becomes ashes. The ashes are the substantial continuity of the log, because the material of the log turned into the ashes. Okay? So when a body is cremated, it's the substantial cause of the ashes that remain. Or if it's buried, it becomes the substantial cause of the decaying material that the worms eat. Or, or it can be, if in old Tibet, when they hacked up the bodies, then it's the substantial cause of the parts of the body that become the food for the vultures. Okay? Where were we? Oh, okay. The ashes are not the continuity of type of the log because the log and the ashes do not have similar characteristics. Applying this to the question of afflictions continuing to awakening, the awakened mind is not the continuity of type of afflictions. Why? Because afflictions are polluted. They are the true origin of dukkha. The awakened mind is unpolluted, and it's not the true origin. Okay, so those things are not the continuity of type, because a polluted mind and awakened mind are very different. The characteristics are different. Okay, so these two do not share the same characteristics. However, the clear and cognizant nature of the awakened mind is in the substantial continuity of the clear and cognizant nature of the afflictions. Okay? So when we're talking about the clear and cognizant nature of the afflictions, the emphasis is on clear and cognizant. And that becomes the substantial cause for the clear and cognizant nature of a Buddha's mind. Okay? From one perspective, it seems that if the mind grasping inherent existence just changed objects and apprehended emptiness instead, it would be a virtuous mind. Seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah? Okay. In that case, from the viewpoint of substance, clarity and cognizance, that's the substance. From the viewpoint of substance, clarity and cognizance, ignorance and wisdom would be in the same substantial continuity, because their clarity and cognizance is the same substantial continuity. Okay. But from the perspective of their characteristics, ignorance and the wisdom realizing emptiness are total opposites, and one cannot become the other. The ignorance grasping true existence does not go to awakening. It is a totally distorted consciousness that cannot improve or become virtuous. In fact, when the antidote of the wisdom realizing emptiness is applied, ignorance degenerates and becomes non-existent. But if we look just at the clear and cognizant nature of ignorance, we can say that it can be purified, and its purified continuum goes on to awakening. Okay, some of you look happy with that explanation, and some of you look unhappy with it. Yeah.
Just wondering if this, where is it there? These continuity of type and continuity of substance, is that like from collected topics?
Yeah, it usually comes in that context. Yeah?
And talking about this, the clarity and cognizance of both the afflicted mind and the awakened mind, there is no continuity of substance in this particular example.
Well, the continuity of substance could be the clear and cognizant nature.
That gets purified.
Yeah, that gets purified. Yeah, when you're talking just about the clear and cognizant nature, you know, that's a continuity of substance. But if you're talking about an afflicted mind and a realized mind, there's not the continuity, of substance,
Okay, I'm still stuck 3 paragraphs up. So I'm okay with saying, the last moment of clarity and cognizance of one life is the substantial cause for the clarity and the first moment of clarity and cognizance of the next life. Okay. When we talk about the, and I know why it's important to talk about the afflictions, but what about, say, the virtuous mental qualities? The idea that if I grow my compassion in this life, that maybe has an impact on the compassion in the next life, which is the next specific I in this continuity.
Yeah, that would be a continuity of substance, it seems to me. Yeah. And it seems like it would also be a continuity of type because they're both minds of compassion. But if you're talking about the compassion in an ordinary being's mind and the compassion in an Arya's mind, they're not a continuity. They wouldn't. They're not a continuity of type.
But could we say that the last, doesn't even sound right, but that the last moments of compassion in this life is the substantial cause for the first moment of compassion in the next life? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, because there's probably going to be a lot of other mental states in between there. Yeah. So the clarity and compassion of the clarity and compassion of one moment of compassion, the clarity and cognizance of one moment of compassion would be the substantial cause for the clarity and cognizance of the next moment of compassion. Yeah. Would it be the substantial cause for an Arya's compassion? Well, in terms of just the continuity of clarity and cognizance, there's a continuity there. But just because you call both of those minds compassion, are they a continuity of, a continuity of type? Well, in the sense of being compassionate, they are, but in the sense of the mind in which they live, they're not the continuity of type, because one's an ordinary being's compassion, one's an Arya's compassion. Yeah, it gets kind of what?
Isn't that what Chandrakirti says in his quote?
This quote? Oh.
In his quote, where he talks about the seeds that the compassion is the seed that ripens in the mind of, so that would be the mind of still an ordinary being coming into becoming a bodhisattva. So that indicates.
In terms of the compassion being a continuity of type, yes. In terms of it being the compassion of a being that sees inherent existence and a being that has realizations, they would be different types because of the mind that they're in. Okay, the compassion of an Arya is very different than the compassion of an ordinary being, because the compassion of an Arya realizes, that's that third kind of compassion Chandrakirti is talking about, sees that sentient beings are empty of inherent existence. And, that compassion is so strong because the Aryas see that sentient beings suffer because they're grasping at an inherent existence. Yeah. So their compassion is especially strong because of that.
Maybe I
this recollection wrong, but my understanding from that teaching was that they were not yet an Arya. That's what very first words are. With the three causes are in the mind before they actually.
No, the verse about the cause, when they're talking about it, comes a little bit earlier. They're saying compassion is the cause at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. But those three, beginning, middle, and end, is different from the later verse where he's talking about the compassion that sees sentient beings, the compassion, it's a different set of three. Okay, let's continue on here. Okay, so we left off with the clear and cognizant nature of the awakened mind is in the substantial continuity of the clear and cognizant nature of the afflictions. But the awakened mind is not in the substantial continuity of the afflictions, because the afflictions have to be abandoned. From one perspective, it seems that, I read that about if ignorance just, saw something differently, it would all be okay. Yeah. But from the viewpoint of their characteristics, ignorance and the wisdom realizing emptiness are total opposite. They're not continuities of the same type. The ignorance, and they're also not the continuities of substance, because ignorance, doesn't become wisdom. Ignorance is obliterated. The ignorance grasping true existence does not go to awakening. It is a totally distorted consciousness that cannot improve or become virtuous. In fact, when the antidote of the wisdom realizing emptiness is applied, ignorance degenerates and becomes non-existence. But when we look at just the clear and cognizant nature of ignorance, we can say that it can be purified, and its purified continuum goes on to awakening. It doesn't go on to awakening because it's polluted, but its purified continuum, the moments of that clarity and consciousness in the future that is purified, that goes to awakening. Now Dzogchen and Mahamudra. So according to Sutra, meditation on the clear and cognizant nature of the mind, or on the transforming Buddha nature alone, will not eradicate afflictions. Why not? Yeah, it's not realizing, if we're just talking about the transforming Buddha nature, we're, that mind does not go on. Let's start over, meditation on the clear and cognizant nature of the mind, or on the transforming Buddha nature alone, will not eradicate afflictions, because that mind does not necessarily realize emptiness. And to eradicate afflictions, it needs to be a mind directly realizing emptiness. However, meditating on the clear and cognizant nature, on the transforming Buddha nature, it does lead us to have more confidence that afflictions are not an inherent part of the mind, and therefore that becoming a Buddha is possible. Because when you're doing meditation on the conventional nature of the mind, you're focusing on just the clear and cognizant nature of the mind. This, in turn, leads us to question, what defiles the mind and what can eliminate these defilements completely? Seeking the method to purify the transforming Buddha nature, we will cultivate the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence and eradicate ignorance. So far, so good, right? According to Dzogchen and Mahamudra, meditation on the clear and cognizant nature of the mind could lead the coarse winds to dissolve. And when the coarse winds dissolve, also the coarse consciousnesses dissolve. And that could lead to the subtlest clear light mind becoming manifest. Okay? So when this happens, practitioners who have previously cultivated a correct understanding of emptiness then incorporate that understanding in their meditation and use the innate clear light mind to realize emptiness and abolish afflictions. Okay, so the Dzogchen and Mahamudra folks start out meditating on the conventional nature of the mind, and they get that, just the clear and cognizant nature of the mind, and they get that, and they can keep the mind steady on that. And then if they have had previously, with a different time, different kind of mental consciousness, a realization of emptiness, then when they are meditating on the clear and cognizant nature of the mind and remember the emptiness of the mind, that can cause the coarse levels of wind and mind to dissolve. And when they dissolve, what is left is that fundamental innate mind of clear light. Okay, so that's according to how they spell it out. Okay, when this happens, when the subtlest clear light mind is manifest, practitioners who have previously cultivated a correct understanding of emptiness then incorporate that understanding in their meditation and use the innate clear light mind to realize emptiness and abolish afflictions. It is important to understand the sublime continuum, Maitreya's text, correctly from a Dzogchen and Mahamudra point of view. Some people take it literally, leading them to incorrectly believe that the primordial wisdom is permanent, inherently existent, independent of any other factors, and does not rely on causes and conditions. They then make statements such as, if you unravel this secret, you will be liberated. People who often don't know what in the world they're talking about, but they know the words to make themselves sound good. So this is a good, if you unravel this secret, you will be liberated. What in the world does that mean? What secret? What am I supposed to unravel? So Dundra Jigme Tempe Nima, and his disciple Sultram Sangpo, who were great Dzogchen scholars and practitioners. His Holiness refers to them quite a bit, especially Dojo Jigme Tempe Nima is often called Dojo Chen. Okay, so they said that the mere presence of this primordial wisdom within us alone cannot liberate us. Why not? At the time of death, all other minds have dissolved, and only the primordial mind remains, even though it has manifested in all the infinite numbers of deaths we've experienced in samsara. That has not helped us attain Buddhahood. These two sages say that in order to attain Buddhahood, it is necessary to utilize the primordial wisdom to realize emptiness. Only that will liberate us. And this is consistent with Tsongkhapa's view. Okay, so it's not just making manifest that subtlest clear light mind. Because it's been manifest in all the times we've died before, but that hasn't done us any good because we haven't realized emptiness. Some commentaries on Dzogchen and Mahamudra say, quote, this wisdom that abides in the afflictions is the true wisdom. And on this basis, every sentient being is already a Buddha. Okay? So the wisdom that abides in the afflictions, remember the clear and cognitive nature of the mind, okay? And so that's the true wisdom. Or if you do it from a tantric viewpoint, it would be saying the fundamental innate mind of clear light is the true wisdom. And on this basis, every sentient being is already a Buddha. Okay, this is problematic. Okay. Although we have been Buddhas, and so they continue to say, although we have been Buddhas from beginningless time, we have to be awakened again. The wisdom that we have now is the omniscient mind of a Buddha, and the three bodies of a Buddha exist innately in each sentient being. Okay, but where? And find it. Okay. Sentient beings have a basis of essential purity that is not merely emptiness, but is endowed with three aspects. Here's the three aspects these people say the basic essence of purity of the mind. Its entity is the Dharmakaya, so the mode of abiding of pristine wisdom. Its nature is the enjoyment body, the appearance aspect of the mind. And compassion is the emanation bodies, its radiance or expression. In short, they say that all three Buddha bodies are present, fully formed in our ordinary state. But since they are obscured, we are not aware of their presence. So these people are probably thinking of the asbestos cloth with dirt on it, and saying, okay, the asbestos cloth is the purity of the mind, and it just has this dirt on it, so let's burn the dirt off, and you still have the asbestos cloth, so that, which has an innate wisdom to it. Okay. It's so interesting how people think of all these different ideas. When I was reading this, it made me think in Indonesia, when we were there, the Buddhism was, since so many Chinese immigrated to Indonesia, in the past couple of centuries, Buddhism became quite a, not the major religion. Major religion is Islam, but it was a strong minority. And but at a certain time when Suharto came to power, he wanted to make all the, he wanted to bring the country together. And the country has, I think, 17,000 islands, 150 languages, I don't know how many religions. And it stretches, it's the longest country, geographically. I don't know how many time zones, 3 or 4 it's in, or maybe 5. Okay, so he wanted to bring it together. So he said, we have religion, and the certain religions, religions with theocracy, that believed in a creator God, were all accepted. So Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, there's a creator, there's a creator of some sort. Now, Buddhism doesn't believe in a creator, but, and so under the law, if they said we don't believe in a creator, then they would not become one of the recognized religions in Indonesia, and that would make it extremely dangerous for all the people who were Buddhist. So this one Indonesian monk, Ashim Jinarakita, okay, so he developed this theory, yeah, where you had Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, being the three bodies of the Buddha, and since the three bodies of the Buddha were all the Buddha, then the Buddha was like the creator that had these three bodies that correlated with the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Anyway, he pulled it off so that the government recognized Buddhism as a legal country, or a legal religion in the country. Okay? So it's kind of like this, he took different aspects. Oh, that's the three bodies of the Buddha. And so here, these people too, who have misunderstood the sublime continuum, are saying that, that the essential purity that is not mere emptiness, but is endowed with three aspects. Its entity is the Dharmakaya, its nature, the Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, and compassion, the emanation or Nirmanakaya. Okay? So it sounds good. Yeah? It sounds good. It's not correct, but it sounds good.
Do they teach it?
What?
Do they teach that?
What Akashim Jinarakita? Yeah, they started teaching that. And then after Suharto, he was in power 20-something years when they eventually got rid of him. He was really bad, quite a harsh dictator. Then they loosened the idea for the religions a little bit. But it was interesting because part of Jinarakita's group, then, okay, we don't believe that anymore, yeah, because they understood from the beginning that it was just a way of saying things for the government. But there was another group that actually believed that didn't want to give up that theory that he had made up. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Okay, so such statements, taken literally, are fraught with problems. While some people are partial and unfair in their criticism and refute misconceptions in only some traditions, Chankhya Ropke Dorje was unbiased and pointed out incorrect interpretations in all four Tibetan traditions, including his own Galu tradition. So in his Song of Experience of the View, he says, I say this not out of disrespect to these masters, but perhaps they have had less exposure to rigorous philosophical investigation of the great treatises and were unable to use certain terminology appropriately. He's so polite. He doesn't say, these people were dimwits. He says, I'm not respecting them, but, that maybe they haven't had that rigorous philosophical studies, so they don't know the different ways that words can be used and the different meanings they have. Yeah. So that is, the difficulty in their assertions lies in a broad use of terminology that is not grounded in the authority of the great treatises. Okay. Of course, Chankhya's comments do not apply to Dzogchen and Mahamudra masters, such as Dojo Jigme Tempe Nima and his teacher Awa Pangchu, who have done serious philosophical study and examination of the great treatises and who ground their understanding of Dzogchen in them. Okay, so their interpretations and writings are excellent. So he's differentiating between different people. All four Tibetan traditions teach practices that search for the mind, where it came from, where it goes, what its shape and color are, and so forth. So that's all meditation on the conventional nature of the mind. So speaking of this shared practice, Chankya said that after searching in this manner, we find that the mind is not tangible, it lacks color and shape, and it does not come from one place or go to another. Discovering this, meditators experience a sense of voidness. Okay, they're meditating on the conventional nature of the mind. They can't find that mind, color, shape, location, anything like that. So there's a feeling of voidness, a kind of emptiness. However, this voidness is not the emptiness of inherent existence that is the ultimate reality of the mind. It is the mere absence of the mind being a tangible object. Yeah? The mind has no color, shape, location, so on. Those are qualities of tangible objects. So it's just meaning that what the people have realized, conventional nature of mind, it's not matter. Yeah. Although someone may think that sense of voidness, of it not being a tangible object, is ultimate reality, and meditate in that state for a long time, this is not meditation on the ultimate nature of the mind. Okay? So when we, in that whole debate about, remember Hoshang, Mahayana, the debate in Samye. So this maybe was what he was meditating on and the mistake he made. So there are two ways to meditate on the mind. The first is, as above, examining whether the mind has color, shape, location, tangibility, and so forth. This leads to the sense that the conventional nature of the mind lacks these qualities. You should do that meditation, yeah? The second is the meditation on the ultimate nature of the mind, in which we examine the mind's ultimate mode of existence and discover its emptiness of inherent existence. So these are two different senses of that you might have a sense of emptiness in both of them, but the emptiness, these two emptinesses are very different. Yeah, so just because your experience has some similarity doesn't mean what you've understood is the same thing. People who confuse these two ways of meditating on the mind and think that the mind's absence of tangibility, color, and so forth is the mind's ultimate nature, those people may criticize masters such as Dinaga and Dharmakirti for their precise expositions on debate, logic, and reasoning, saying that these only increase preconceptions. Okay? And you hear this kind of people saying this kind of thing. Why are you studying so much? You're just learning a bunch of intellectual stuff, and it's just a bunch of conceptions, and we have to realize emptiness directly without any conceptions. So you're just getting all tangled up in conceptions. And those people will say the same thing about Tantra. Oh, when you're doing Tantra, you're just visualizing all these things. You're just saying mantra. You're just keeping your mind busy with lots of conceptual things. It has nothing to do with the nature of mind. Yeah. If you haven't heard people say that, just wait, you will. I've heard people say that. It is a kind of common misunderstanding that people have. But the thing is that if you've studied, then you understand what the correct understanding is. Okay? That there's two different senses of the mind being, quote, quote, empty or void. Yeah. It is the same way. You can walk in the room and say the room is empty and just focus on there being nothing in the room. Yeah. Is that the emptiness of inherent existence of the room? The fact that there's just nothing in it? No. But they're both, if you focus on there's nothing in the room, nothing, you might get some sense of, the absence, of tangibility and obstructability and so on. And you think, oh, that's the emptiness of inherent existence. But it's not. Yeah. There was I'm going to quote one Christian pastor here that said something in the last few days. Because Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, he was talking about, I forget what he was saying, but maybe it was because he changed his mind on the bill. Anyway, I won't get into that part. But he was saying something like, God told him to, not pass this bill. I think it was the border bill, something like that. The thing to have restrictions on the border that also had money for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan. And, God told him, actually it was Trump who told him, but he said he was in prayer and God said, no, don't do that. And one pastor, I think this was what he said, and one pastor said, this is the good line, not everything that you hear in prayer is from God. Yeah. And we know that from ourselves, don't we? Have you ever been in deep meditation and then you have a certain idea and that idea is just like, I've got to do that. Yeah. And then, you have to say, okay, I've got to do that. I was in meditation and I had this strong feeling that I've got to, go up and meditate in the mountains, or I've got to open a center for homeless young people. And you get out of your meditation and you pack your bags and you're in the mountains, or you go and you open a nonprofit for, homeless teens. Yeah. Without stopping and thinking after you've had that burst of energy, is this actually practical, what I'm thinking of doing? So in a philosophical sense, just because it comes to your mind in meditation doesn't mean it's the correct idea. Like I told you about the rabbi who was doing Zen meditation, who discovered that God existed from Zen meditation. Yeah? So this is, what His Holiness is saying in this story is it's so important. Just because you have some feeling, yeah, that you have to really check what it is. Yeah. And, people, we've all had, kind of weird experiences. If you had weird experiences in meditation, sometimes you see colors or shapes, or it feels like the Buddha's really there, or, something happens that's unusual, And, okay. When I was in Potosan, Chenrezig's island in China, there's one place around the corner of another side of the island where there's a cave, and it said that Kuan Yin appears to people in that cave. Yeah. And so we went there. I was with the boys, my Chinese friends. Yeah. And we went there, and there were a couple of women also in the cave at the same time we were. And one of them was going, oh, I see Kuan Yin. There she is. And, then she kind of talked to Kuan Yin, made a prayer. And then she said, okay, I think we shouldn't take up too much of Kuan Yin's time. And they left. You know, it was so sweet, so sweet. Did Kuan Yin really appear to her? I have no idea. You know, I have no idea. Yeah. But if Kuan Yin appeared to me, I would kind of, you know, which she didn't. I was standing in the same cave that she was, looking in the same direction, and she saw Kuan Yin, and I saw rocks. Yeah. So, you know, yeah. So maybe, yeah, I totally missed it. Maybe Kuan Yin was there. I didn't see her. But maybe she wasn't there. Does it matter in the end? Yeah. Does it matter in the end whether you saw Kuan Yin or not? Yeah. In one way, well, some people are saying no, and some people are saying yes. Because people tell me all sorts of experiences, and and they ask me, did I see Kuan Yin, or did I realize emptiness, or whatever? I have no idea. I asked one Lama this question. He had such a good answer, because I said, what do I say to these people when they ask me? I think I had asked them specifically about a dream. People will tell me about their dreams. And, did this really happen? Is this real? Is it really telling the future, or whatever? I have no idea. So I said, what do I tell them? Because they're looking to me for something. He said, interpret the dream in a way so that it encourages the person to practice. I thought, that was such a good answer, because what's important is that the person feels energized in their practice. Whether the dream, they really saw Kuan Yin in the dream, whether they really, went to whatever, we do in dreams, or, whether the dream is true or not, because people dream all sorts of things. In a way, that's not what's important. It's how people interpret the dream that is important. Yeah. And it's because after you've had this vision of Kuan Yin, yeah, what's important? That you saw Kuan Yin or you didn't? Or that you have a very positive mind that says, whether I saw Kuan Yin or not, I had a strong feeling of being close to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I had a strong feeling of being in the presence of, infinite compassion. And so that helps me to know that my compassion can increase and become like that. Are you getting what I'm saying? That's, if a person thinks like that, then whether they saw Kuan Yin or not is irrelevant, because how they're thinking, they're going to practice well, and they will develop Kuan Yin's compassion. Yeah. So I thought that was, yes, that's a good way to answer people's questions. Yeah, he said, you say, well, it could mean this. You're not interpreting and saying it does mean this. You're saying, well, it could mean this. And you give some kind of positive meaning to your dream. Mm-hmm.
Ask you a question about the text.
Mm-hmm.
So you just went through this beginning of this paragraph. There are 2 ways to meditate on the mind. And I have 2 questions related to that. Is it speaking here from the sutra perspective?
Yeah, here we are.
Okay, so
Yeah, but it's not that different. I mean, it's the clear and cognizant nature of the mind is the conventional mind, and emptiness is the ultimate nature.
right. So I remember, maybe you remember when Kinzer Wangdak was here and Roy was translating, and we were in the Shanti cabin asking him questions. And that's when that phase when I was all about meditating on the conventional nature of the mind. And I was trying to figure out where this fits in the path for our tradition that we're practicing. And his answer to that was, I remember thinking, it was very far along in Tantra. And I was wondering if you could speak about that. It was like something in the completion phase. I mean, I just remember I have the recording of his.
I would have to know more exactly what he said to comment on it.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is written from the sutra perspective.
Yeah, it's not, it could be from either of them. Yeah. It's not specific to either at this point. Okay. Okay, so other people criticizing Dignaga and Dharmakirti, saying that what they're teaching is just a lot of preconceptions that are polluting the mind. Guntang Kunchuk Tenpe Dronme, another master who was impartial in his critical analysis of Tibetan Buddhist traditions, said he found that amazing. Yeah, and Guntang Rinpoche was, he had done the traditional study of the classical texts, and to hear somebody kind of toss out Dignaga and Dharmakirti, he would find that like astonishing. Could somebody say that? Some people believe there is no need for reasoning or investigation on the path, that simply by having faith and receiving the blessing of a guru, primordial wisdom will arise. And sometimes in the tantric sadhanas, it sounds like that. Yeah? That you just have faith and you request the blessings and your wisdom will come about without having any study or any analysis or anything. In this light, His Holiness says, I have been very happy to see the establishment of more shedras, academic institutes, that teach the classical philosophical texts from India and Tibet. Okay, so he's saying, yeah, stick to Dignaga and Dharmakirti and Chandrakirti and Nagarjuna, and don't just toss it all away and say it's all conceptions, because actually that plays a very important role in being able to realize emptiness. Yeah. Because why? Because to realize emptiness, it's not just closing your eyes and you don't see anything. Okay? That's that lack of tangibility and color and so forth. Okay? So that's not it. That we have to identify correctly the object of negation and then negate it. But if you haven't identified what inherent existence would be like if it existed, how can you prove to yourself that it doesn't exist? It's like if you don't know who the thief is, you're not going to find him in the crowd of people inside your house. Okay? So, some people believe there is no need. I just read that. Okay, so some Westerners similarly do not value Dharma study and investigation, perhaps because Buddha Dharma is relatively new in the West, and we all want instant enlightenment. Do it quick, get it, cross it off our list, and then we, just radiate light and everybody loves us. Okay. Without a comprehensive understanding of the Buddha Dharma, people tend to seek the easiest and shortest path to awakening, a path that does not require giving up their attachments. Isn't that true? Yeah. Such an attitude exists among Tibetans as well. Tsongkhapa said that many people think that the Buddha's qualities are wonderful, but when a spiritual mentor explains through reasoning and scriptural citations how to cultivate and attain them, those people become discouraged and say, who can actually achieve such realizations? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then, so I think we better stop here. But that means next week we're going to keep going until we finish. Okay. This next section is quite interesting. Are we already Buddhas? We started talking about that a few sections back here, but now we're getting into it. Any other questions? Yeah.
If we go back to page 332, I think, yeah, we were talking about the causal clear light mind. Mm-hmm. When it says the coarser minds of the waking state are derivatives of this everlasting mind.
Wait,
the coarser minds of the waking state are derivatives of this everlasting mind. What does that mean?
That means that because the fundamental nature of the mind exists, those other coarse minds also exist. They have that underlying nature of clarity and awareness. They derive from that. Actually, in the when you're dying, okay, as everything's dissolving, there's 8 stages. If we go directly, let's just pretend we're not talking about the first 4, because that's your gross senses dissolving and your senses cease to function. Then the 5th stage is the white appearance. So it's an appearance of just everything being white. Yeah. The second is the red increasing experience. So it's just everything being, they say, like the orange of a dawn when the sky's really orange. And then after that, the 7th stage is the black near attainment. And that part of that, you're conscious, and part of it, it's like you fall into a swoon. And then when that ceases, the 8th stage is the fundamental innate mind of clear light. That manifests. Okay. When you enter the bardo, then the first moment of the bardo becomes the black near attainment. Okay. So you went in on this sequence. You go into the bardo as the mind goes again from the subtlest to a little bit grosser in the bardo. Then first you have the black near attainment, then you have the red increasing mind, then you have the white vivid appearance, and then after that you have coarser minds again. Okay? So it's like you're going into the subtlest mind, and then as soon as you're in the bardo, you're going backwards. So those minds are derivatives of that fundamental innate mind of clear light. Okay.
And the karma's driving that, Venerable?
The what?
The karma?
The karma is, that's a natural process, the dissolution. Where karma comes in is it ripens towards the end of the fourth stage, where you still have a conceptual consciousness, and what karma is ripening will push you towards a certain kind of bardo body and future body in your next life.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful because I think I tend to confuse, just the idea of a fundamental innate mind of clear light with a mind basis of all.
Oh, they're totally different.
Right.
Totally
Just
different.
the idea of things deriving from it. So that word threw me off.
Yeah. Okay. No, mind basis of all
Yeah,
is
of course, it's a whole
totally different thing.
But it carries the seeds. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then then separate to that, this the idea of a continuity of type, right? So the mind of manifest anger, is it the same continuity of type as the seed of anger? But they're not the same substance, right? Because not continuity of substance for sure.
Yeah, because the manifest mind and the seed are quite different, except the manifest mind is the seed is the manifest, it ripens into the manifest mind. They are in a continuity.
But the seed is abstract composite.
Right.
And doesn't have clarity and cognizance.
No.
Okay.
It's not a consciousness.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so in that way, it wouldn't be the substantial cause of the mind of anger. But in another way, that seed, is the thing that makes the manifest state of anger come up. So maybe there would be, continuity of type, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop here. And we will talk about, are we already Buddhas, next week. Are you already a Buddha? Will you be by next week? Maybe you're saying, by next week, no. Are we already Buddhists this week? No. Next week, yes.
Could you talk next week again about how you came to the idea of putting these three topics together in this one book?
Oh, okay.
Next week, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Read the prologue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the prologue.
Okay. That was a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah, after we finish the book, we'll go back and we'll read or did I call it prologue? Is that the name? It's before the introduction. Huh? Preface. Yeah, not prologue, preface. Okay. Okay.